Meredith, can we make any generalisations about who you're finding is travelling overseas for cosmetic surgery, and what sort of surgery is most popular or common?
Yeah, look, who's travelling is something that's changed a little bit in the last few years. So I did a pilot study for this current project in 2009, and I followed 9 women who went to Thailand, 9 Australians, and they pretty much covered the gamut of what people having cosmetic surgery here would have. So they also covered the gamut of the demographics. So they were of various classes, they were of various ages, and they had various procedures from things to do with the body to things to do with the face. And that's what I came back and reported then. That's still the case. We're still getting a really wide variety of procedures. But in Thailand and Malaysia...
The young
yes,
women.
That's right. This is what has changed, and this is what I was really taken by when I went back to Thailand last year, is the increase in women in their early 20s going. They go in groups. They travel either with friends or with people they meet when they're there, and they almost invariably have breast augmentation. So that is a big group, and the interesting thing about that group is that I think that lots of them would not have the surgeries if it wasn't packaged with a holiday. So it's part of the whole package.
Now, this is something you've been tracking, isn't it? There are some interesting, package deals and people, facilitating those now, sort of cosmetic travel agents.
Yes, they're called cosmetic surgery tourism facilitators or agents. It's literally an industry we can't keep up with. So every time we go back into research, something major has changed. A whole lot of people have dropped off. There are new players. So it's an unfolding industry. We've got people in the industry who are highly ethical, who would never dream of combining a holiday breast augmentation, for some bizarre cost like $2,999, but you must buy it this week. But then we've got people who do that very, very happily as well. It is an industry that I think is in the process of maturing, and I hope in the process of becoming more ethical.
I mean, obviously, Thai and Malaysian surgeons and surgeons in other locations where this is happening are seeing a market there for them. Are they subject to the same level of training and regulation that surgeons would be in Australia?
They are. The good surgeons in Thailand or in Indonesia or in Malaysia are absolutely as well qualified, if not maybe slightly better qualified than the good surgeons here.
It seems that some train here too.
Some train here, some train in the States, but, Thailand, for example, has incredibly good training as well.
Michelle, 7 weeks ago, Bali.
Yep.
It was a holiday.
Yes.
But it was more than that. Tell us about the procedures you had. What did you get done?
I had upper eyelid surgery, and I had fillers and laser. I had my age spots removed on my hands, laser, yeah.
And the fillers were on your face?
Across my top lip because I smoke, so, and down the labial folds, yeah.
Now, why Bali? Why did you decide not to have the procedures here if they were of interest to you?
Okay, I went around, I've done a lot of research and I've seen a few plastic surgeons. One of the reasons I didn't want to get it done here was, I guess, the gruff attitude that you get in these churn in, churn out. Their egos are bigger than their bank accounts. I wanted to be treated like they actually cared what they were doing to me. I don't like the fact that they want to do everything. You go in for one thing and they tell you how revolting you look or how aged you look. And
why don't you get this done on the side as well?
You need to have this done, you need to have that done, and point out things. So instead of going out feeling good about yourself, you want to go home and jump off your dressing table.
God, you didn't have a good set of exchanges here at all. What made you think that going overseas would be any better?
I did a lot of research. I read a lot about it. There's a lot of information available over the internet. I spoke to people that knew people and some people that I met myself. And I suppose I really did pry for answers to what I wanted to know. The other reason was that I was going to Bali anyway for a holiday with my family, and I had made inquiries with a particular clinic that I'd checked out for a long time and thought that I'd drop in and see them while I was there. And the only thing I was actually really definite that I was going to do was the fillers.
You haven't mentioned cost yet, which interests me. Surely that was a big driver too.
Oh, God, yeah. Absolutely. The procedures I had done cost me $1,500, whereas here it would have been between $6,000 and $8,000.
Right, that's
Yeah.
a big difference. What I will ask you about though is post-op care, because that's quite critical. That's where things can come astray with any surgical procedure.
Yeah.
So what was the post-operative care situation? Did
They
you
were
have to
wonderful.
stay in Bali for it, or?
Yeah, they said that I'd have to stay until the stitches came out, which I was going to anyway. Look, they were that good that my sister was a bit concerned the day after the surgery because of the swelling. So she rang them, and the doctor sent the nurse out, her cosmetic nurse out on a motorbike on a 2-hour journey just to check that they were okay, and they were fine. So, and that facility was available to me 24/7.
Meredith Jones, I mean, obviously this issue of post-op care is of more concern if you're having a bigger procedure, like perhaps a breast augmentation. So is that an issue here of people coming back from overseas, they've had the procedure, something goes wrong, and then they've got to try and make their way through our system and front up to doctors or to surgeons who haven't done the procedures and might find that, you know, they might have medico-legal issues or concerns.
That's right. We at the stakeholder conference that we had last week, we did have a plastic surgeon who's based at the Randwick Hospital come along and speak to us, and he said that he has several people a month coming straight from Mascot to the hospital because, of course...
From the airport?
Yes, because, of course, that hospital's the closest to the airport.
Why?
Well, I didn't ask the details, but it could be anything from like what Michelle had, you know, a slight panic about too much swelling to someone who's, you know, maybe bleeding or maybe in great pain or something like that. The thing is about cosmetic surgery tourism, but also about cosmetic surgery in general in Australia, is we don't have any good statistics whatsoever. So surgeons here are very keen to say, don't go overseas, it's dangerous, you don't know what you're getting, etc., and you'll come back and you'll need help. What they never talk about is their own work and when it goes wrong, and the fact that with, you know, I think that with quite a lot of cosmetic surgery, things go wrong, people are unhappy, but we don't hear about the stuff that happens in Australia. So I'm just always very, very wary of those kinds of critiques of cosmetic surgery tourism.
Well, there would be the concern that they are losing business.
Absolutely.
Do you have a sense of the numbers who are electing to have cosmetic surgery procedures while on holiday overseas?
Well, first of all, most people don't choose to do it while on holiday. Most people actually decide from the start that that's what they're going to do. So Michelle is a little bit different in that case. Most people decide they're going to have the cosmetic surgery and they have some sort of holiday associated with that, but the decision about the surgery is the primary decision. We think there are about 15,000 Australians per year going overseas for these surgeries.
So that's quite substantial. That's just a guess, though.
It's literally...
An educated guess.
It's a guess, yes, definitely a guess.
I mean, clearly... If someone, just to follow up on the issue of local surgeons, if someone did have a problem, has anyone expressed a sort of sense of embarrassment or shame about fronting up to a surgeon here? Or
Absolutely.
have they kind of received kind of dubious responses from surgeons who, sort of kind of, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I told you so?
Yes, to both of those. So one of the big problems, I think, is that surgeons here are very reluctant to see people, to deal with people who've had stuff done overseas. If something's got, and it's perfectly understandable, if something's gone wrong and you then work on it, it becomes your problem. So, it's a matter of liability, it's a matter of insurance, and they're very reluctant to take it on. But there is also that thing of "I told you so," whereas they may not say that to someone who's had surgery in Australia and fronts up with exactly the same problem.
Which says, though, that people are at risk of getting inadequate care if they need it.
That's right. That's right. I mean, ideally for me, we would have some sort of body in Australia, some sort of regulatory body where people could, for example, see a cosmetic surgeon here, have a consultation. That person would talk very closely with the person they were going to actually have the surgery with overseas. And then when they came back, they'd have aftercare from that person that they'd first seen. But,
Pie in the sky,
Yeah.
pie in the sky,
Yeah.
Meredith. Dr. Meredith Jones is my guest. She is a senior lecturer at the Institute for Interactive Media and Learning at UTS, and she's involved in an international project tracking the phenomenon of cosmetic tourism in the world. And joining us also is Michelle, who recently travelled to Bali to have 3 cosmetic surgery procedures. How did it work out for you, Michelle?
Oh, I'm delighted, absolutely delighted. I had no fears. I wanted to have my recovery, away from people I knew, from my day-to-day life.
So that's a big part of this too, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't want to just go scaring small children on a daily basis while I was recovering. No, my outcome's fantastic, and I'd definitely do it again. Yeah.
And what's interesting, Meredith, is that there's an incredible openness about this that we haven't seen before, I don't think, particularly as you were mentioning amongst young women who are going in groups,
That's right.
having boob jobs.
Yes.
That's quite a shift around us as consumers seeking out cosmetic procedures.
That's right. And this is a big thing that we discussed at our stakeholder conference, because we had some, I'd without wanting to insult them, I'd say people with a kind of old-fashioned view, which is that because any cosmetic surgery is medicine, is in the realm of medicine, and should be treated only as that. But really, in the last decade, if not for longer than that, we've seen cosmetic surgery move really dramatically from being a medical procedure to being just what you said. It's a consumer item, it's a commodity, it's something people buy, and people don't necessarily want to be lectured to by surgeons, like Michelle said, about, oh, well, you need X, Y, Z, and I'll do it in this way, and I'm the expert, and you're just my patient. People nowadays have done their research, just like Michelle did. They've done a lot of research. They know exactly what they want, and they really see, correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, they really see the surgeons as technicians, as highly skilled technicians who will do what I say.
Wow, surgeons like to think otherwise, I think. I just hope that it's not all emerging from extreme makeover shows.
Look, I don't think, I know in my case it's not, definitely not. The bottom line is that I'm over 50. My eyes started to get very hooded. I couldn't wear makeup. I looked tired. And I wanted it done. It was a simple procedure. I was aware that there was risks. I was aware that in a developing country there's more risks. But I think that was up to me to manage. For example, showering and not letting the Bali water on my face. That was a big issue.
And these are things that they explain to you?
Absolutely. But also I think that you have to have a certain amount of common sense. Also, when I spoke to my surgeon about her qualifications, I think the deciding factor was that she had been trained in Fremantle by a plastic surgeon that was easy to Google.
Did you speak to her before you left Australia? Because once you're there, it'd be hard to back out, wouldn't it?
No, I didn't make any commitments. I went in to see her about the Restylane and thought that I would find out more I found out what I needed to know and went back the next week and got it done. Yeah.
Meredith, this is a project, as we mentioned, that's international in scale.
Yes.
It's not just regional in terms of Australia and the Asian region, but you've also looked at, you're looking at cosmetic surgery tourism in Britain, in South Korea and in Australia. I mean, does the research in the UK and South Korea mirror what's happening here? The South Korean situation is absolutely intriguing in terms of the procedures they're getting.
Yeah, no, they don't mirror it at all. They're quite different. It varies from place to place. In Australia, for example, we're getting these groups of young women. That's not something we're seeing anywhere else in the rest of the world so far. In Australia, people tend to go to Thailand or Malaysia. Michelle is another exception. Probably 80% go to Thailand and most of those go to Bangkok, whereas Britain's are much more dispersed. So there's, at least 10, 15 European countries where people can go, and it seems to be sort of equal numbers going to them. And then South Korea, of course, Koreans themselves have a completely different view of cosmetic surgery to
facial reconstruction.
Well, the most common operation is having the jawbone shaved down to create this sort of heart-shaped face. But apart from the different operations, Koreans don't...
I mean, that's staggering. We've just got to pause for at least 1 second on that. Jawbone shaved down.
Yes.
To change the structure of the face.
Yes, to change the lower half of the face to make it smaller.
Right. Why?
We don't, of course, nobody really knows. My theory is that it's got to do with manga, the incredible popularity of manga faces and manga characters in Southeast Asia.
The desirable aesthetic.
Yeah, the desirable aesthetic. So, and that manga face is really a face that has very little in its lower half, and then these massive eyes. So we're getting in Korea, it's a young person's thing. Older, middle-aged Koreans don't do this. But we're getting this look with a shaved-down jawbone, a really heart-shaped face, and then to complement it, they sometimes get double eyelid surgery if they don't already have double eyelids, and then they have all of these other enhancements to make their eyes look bigger. So eyelash extensions are huge, and then I don't know if you've ever seen them. They're called big eye contact lenses. And they're contact lenses you can wear that make your eye look really huge. And it's very, very striking when you see one of these people on a train or somewhere.
I'm thinking of neoteny, which is the sort of the kind of cartoon faces that people find so appealing. It's part of the kind of the evolutionary thinking around why we are drawn to children's faces in order to nurture them, Right. Yeah. As an anthropologist, this must intrigue you through that lens as well, this whole trend and shift.
Well, it makes me realise, even more that there is no such thing as natural, that every body is made in some way. Every single body is manufactured. And what any culture thinks is natural or normal or acceptable is just that culture's belief at that time and in that place. So, having your lower face shaved down and wearing big contact lenses is no more supposedly unnatural than having enormous silicone bubbles put in your chest.
Well, when you put it like that.
Yes.
Michelle, for you, we still have decided together that you will go by your first name and
Sure.
we won't make you public.
Thank
So
you.
there's still a sort of element of privacy here for you, isn't there? But that this is a sort of private process that you've gone through in yourself.
Yes, it was completely about me. And the people nearest and dearest to me are aware. If other people notice, I'm not going to lie. But I just figure it's my business. Yeah, it's a personal thing. And with personal reasons about the next stage in my life and where I'm going with that, it all fits in. Yeah.
Thank you both for joining us on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
It's such an interesting project that you're undertaking. I look forward to hearing the detailed and nitty-gritty results in June, which
Thank
I think
you.
is when you're going to compile them all.
That's right.
And Michelle, thank you.
Thank you
very
for having
much
me.
for coming. Appreciate it. There we had Dr. Meredith Jones, Senior Lecturer at UTS and involved in a big international study. We'll link to their research project. It's called Sun, Sea, Sand and Silicon, Aesthetic Surgery Tourism. And also Michelle, who recently travelled to Bali for cosmetic surgery procedures. Very grateful to Michelle for sharing that intensely personal story, actually.
RN, your world unfolds.